Hi, and welcome to another session of Creators 101 with Too Sexy Structured Content for DNN. In this session, we're going to enhance our bucket list app, our ideas of things to do before we kick the bucket, with multi-language capabilities. Because that's one of the things that Too Sexy is really good at. And the reason is, of course, that we're from Switzerland, and Switzerland has 4 languages. Not counting English, which of course is a very common language for websites here as well. So when we started creating Too Sexy in 2012, languages were like one of the core problems we solved right at the beginning. And so we're going to look at how we do this and all these things about content lifecycle, because multi-language content is really different from single language content lifecycles. And don't forget, if you need any links, further tutorials, the previous or next videos, check them out on this link. So let's get started. On the screen now you can see the same website with 2 languages. The left side, where it says home in the corner, is of course English. The right side with Startseite, well, that's German. Now this is all DNN, and just in case you've never done this before, let's just really make sure that you know that in the site settings, languages, you would have to enable the languages that you want to use. Now we did that already, and that's why of course we have 2 little flags here and we have 2 different pages. Now except for things like the privacy and stuff, you don't see any difference yet. You'll also notice that if you would edit content right now, you would still see this, and you would still just see English as a language. So let's first of all go to Too Sexy and enable the second language. This is important because Too Sexy has a concept of a primary language and additional languages. The language you use to create the initial content is usually the primary language. It should also be the language which has like all of the content translated. So if your website is going to be 100% English, 40% Spanish, well, English is going to be your primary language. If you're German speaking, and your website's going to be completely German and like a few pages are also going to be English, well then German is going to be your primary language. So let's go in here now. By the way, Too Sexy is the primary language as defined in DNN. And now I'm going to go to the languages section, and as you can see here we have English and German, and I'm now going to activate German. That's all it needs so that the UI from now on has an additional language tab here. And so the first thing you need to know is the primary language must be filled in before additional languages can be used for each item. So whenever you create a new item, the first language has to be filled in first. This helps that if a field is not translated, which can occur a lot, it always has a default language to fall back to, and it should always be the same. Now, in this case, as you can see, I'm going to just translate this field. I can do it through the menu. I can double click, whatever. So that would be the German translation. As you can see, I'm not going to translate the WYSIWYG or the image right now. Note that at the moment I can still translate all the fields, but I could lock some fields for disabling it. But there's a very good reason why you want to leave this optional, because even a picture can have exceptions where translations are wanted. So let's do this. Now this is the English page, and I'm going to refresh the German page, and you can see it's already been translated. And if I go to edit it in German, it will open the German language dialog first. I can go back to English if I need to. And now comes the thing about the content lifecycle. I'm just going to take a little example, and I'm going to pretend that I would like to translate the German picture. Now this doesn't usually happen, but just for demo's sake, I'm going to pull in another picture here. And now the German language has a different picture than the English language, right? Now, the very lousy multi-language systems tend to have an initial language, copy all of the data, and then translate it. But that's really bad, because right now, if for some reason the pack shot or the image or whatever would change in the primary language, the secondary language doesn't get to inherit that anymore. Let's just go back and actually lock this back to the initial language, because we want to keep it that way. If I now update the English picture, let's just say I'll take the one I uploaded previously, this rocket picture here. If I now save it in English, because German is still tied to the same language, it'll automatically inherit the same picture. This is really important for multi-language content lifecycle, because one of the worst things is that the initial translation usually works out pretty well. But as time goes on, translations tend to diverge. And by just making sure that certain fields are still locked to the master language, you can really make sure that as they are updated in the master, all the child languages are also updated too. So this is multi-language and too sexy. It's super, super, super simple. And I don't think there's another content management system or another headless system which does it as easily as this. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we'll do some really cool stuff by starting to build a list of our bucket list. So see you there. Daniel for the DNN and Too Sexy community.